Malungit total berabeklat. With total leko rekao Minister Caleb Udoy Jr., Minister of Finance, yung total leko rekao Mr. Kashmir Mangsaw, Director Budget and Management. Total leko rekao Speaker, Omar Dediget, total mera President ng Senate, Fiscal Senators. Akmo open at hearing na Senate Bill 11-70. El bill del sender niya President Abdul Belaul Mergit. Ayim ne pas ngira first reading ra Senate. El sera 12 el gab singil ong ewid el buil ra first day of regular session. Tial Senate Bill 11-70 tiagit tial FY 2023 FY 2023 Unified Budget. Makot tagi malawri nga sulem speaker. No se vemos el gonger sel tengamira Senate President Paules Lecorcao request kami mal sigum the joint hearing to kolakat temer tial la budget milmre at momrek. Ma kanamomu le minister mong welcome merkau ya kot tebok tial opportunity introduce all senators ng atyang kaita como mesra presidente ng Senate ng atyang Senator Paules, como mesra vice president ng Senate ng atyang Senator Marior, next after him Senator Scapao, Senator Cuarte, Senator Rudim, Senator Neri Abang Whips, Senator Sungino, and Senator Tablual. And for the record, nakangatyang gumatingil wa siya chairman na way chairman sa Senate Senator Rugabay Inabo ding niya sungul mo of Island mga delegate ato itil mera vice chairman ringil ngak makura mo obat telurio lo tiabek member na committee edi wa house lagi all member na committee except the president ma vice ma Florida or except the president. With that introduction, may gugpusat Allah, Chairman na Chairman sa Senate, House, Delegate sa Lul, Gumluk, sa latar.
So, tutam sulang, Chair. Tutal mo ka, President sa Senate, ka ma Vice President. Digi sa floor leader. Tutal mo kami, mabakal senators. Tuta minister o ma director mangilal mavam nabitar kami ilaya imol member ra committee din sa house mag-introduce ng ilgote. Of course yung mga madam kanay from great state of IRI next nga delegate lang along I'm sure kaman mga delegate lang along next nga delegate sinsak nga delegate Remlig, el delegate Tumetaro, el delegate Abilio, Solablay. Makakotokol ako mamra house, el delegate lang iwal, Mr. Arurang. Nga delegate next nga delegate Malakayok, el Telay, delegate Telay, ang mora ako Northern State, Blue Belaw, nga delegate Kamsong. Nga delegate Sonsol, Litaka, Gibbons. Yang nga delegate terang at maul lobang kita adalah total nga vice speaker kemam delegate ngilai wet. Nga hotel Southern State delegate Ratobel, delegate Marino. Of course, kapag speaker sa lobang kita adalah nga tara member akamitin din ko kanat represent singi lobang kada alsil singi ma vice speaker ada member mama 16 la house di teru mama ada member which sing speaker mama Sabino Anastasio ma vice speaker mama ngira wet tiga ada member committee mama 14 members on it all di mo mes nga quorum ra committee ra house nga tiam se ada conduct business lobang kada chairman kam sulat al arragin ko practice seguir el quase del nombre al tel al deise house of lobaba chet el supplemental belang agi ku kara baksit ya senet amo oba leader gida budget 2023 mga tel support a senet mga ol gida tel budget la sulang yo chere mon mabere de gibo bangyo
mal simple kada kan dita introduction e minister hindi raw Mr. Marsaum ilalta may baksate Allah Senator Paules Senate President tembol do opening remarks ringi
Sulang chairman malungil total merka minister ma right hand banner kau merong dole ko mga telterong makti mout ker kumil may mang bosepedal kaswese yang bosep amlo gerai gelbek la baby ra araw ureng ra kamar senators bolsepedal mo understand maduro ra budget te bolsepel dimre de yung das roseng mungila dilmre da budget mukmuk lele ko ra kami ma president ko klomis ng mga ringa korangod aw da swiringi pot ka tang ringi degi taktung yang kamal meringa sulil terul mo sibil mem kada kaswese meringa sulil la speaker ma chairman ng imar adra house no sibil mem ka git mage da kaswese de satel budget tergit kada mo tang lo sendi ka udo de mo kada moragel sa pedal lo rep taigel bet lo ngari ngirgid lo moragel sa pedal lo spem pol sibil ka mental man mol mal ka mo terbang nira armada del club say masulang.
At this time yak mom sa te Allah speaker sabi no Anastasio mangukmok muri mars ni
Sula chairman awi chairman sa Senate paling sula minister ka ma director no sa biu kami abek kra ka tamalar kami mede ka usbir Marenga sudah la president de sebel invite ra House of Delegate Pedro Audit lureur kama mangartiang el gilingel mochol kami ada Senate el Pedro Audit al budget el andi el week ma next week entra regular session ma gingartia presidente o ni trau ma a chairman o chairman sa Senate como dia uror ketua beklad bukol ngul September August ma September bago ma suporta egor kami president ngidi mo di auror sa del bubane gu podem mereka la regular session malsumo ko ra special session el maral special sa del considera vessel items sula
Sida introduction ra case magi House ma Senate la and for the record recognize ra leader a Senate Senator Elzabe na join the gate makmo omu ilwa di misketa tetet yar hearing ako te for the next 20 minutes ya gi yorngita ala Senate tem kimnguwa ali te kibom sat logera a question akmo time ringil well siluk po ka 20 minutes lagi kumistri atra house to go ogera kadrir 20 minutes ya bol mereg and then begin kora campaign na questions left and right kay belt mission may gelwa ospe a clarification from the outset minister thanks for your time ako te silot the issue sa mamal umgora mas kamama overview ngi at yagit FAA sira gimwa FAA ra at sira first session kamamara July 12 ngora dim naka variant sirngi yagi gora lolo mesel ngwa aba FAA ngani sel gora special sel gora agi ta yel mo pasere de taida revenue ngora ngani yagi karel ngora dim naki mesang makasim le gora ka eli mang toward the end of the day staffer nga ka eloko ngwa imo PS ending giyak ka variant sirngi ending kukurawam na mo ngot a figure wal bol tergib ngarba ba gel figure FAA gim ngilur eli before the record I get to the FAA nganya one date July 9th ma one date eli ngari galigar gabi mang bedap satte Allah ako tergel bara minister si kam kula miskita a bird view or raktel view ra tel FAA ra sing rakmal funds available available mortal budget 2023.
This is more than the previous. Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, President Baules, Vice Chairman and Mayor Floor Leader Alabel, and senators that are here today. Good morning to Speaker Anastasio, Vice Speaker Ngiray Wet, and the delegates that are here today. It's always a pleasure to meet with you, especially when we get a chance to meet with both houses at the same time and try to resolve any clarifications that need to be made, especially with important measures like the budget. Before President Whips left on his trip, he was insistent that we finalize a budget proposal and submit to OEK according to the required timing. So there were a lot of last-minute preparations for the submission before he left, and a slight oversight on some of the calculations. So there has been, since the initial submission, a revised FAA that has not been signed yet. Basically, the revised FAA provides for an additional $510,000 from restricted local revenues, and this, unrestricted local revenues, and this amount covers some of the difference in the appropriation that was not correctly added up. So basically, the appropriation amount in this FY23 budget is $92,014,000. So it is a slight difference, and the difference is because of an additional error. So that has been corrected in both the budget bill, just in the purpose of the act needs to be corrected, and then in the FAA, there's an additional $510,000 that needs to be added to unrestricted local revenues, and the total revenues, and increase in the total budget request to $92,014,000. So there is a bit of an error in rushing the package to Congress that resulted in the slight differences, but essentially the bill is correct. It's in the detail. It's just in the summary. It's
Okay,
incorrect.
so the bill will eventually should be amended. So instead of authorizing appropriate 91,914,000, it's going to increase by that amount.
Yes,
So that's-
$92,014,000.
I was wondering if it will be easier if you were to transmit, for us to make an amendment. I guess that's no problem, but to make it sort of, it all came from you to send us a new page one.
Yes, we can do that if
Yeah.
you prefer. And
Yes, a new page one with the right amount of authorized and appropriate.
yeah, as the president's not here, if you don't mind, I will send a letter to you. Mhm.
In the bill, all the amount on page one for executive operation, there is a 2.2 2,600,000. It's on line 13 that shall come from the Blue Prosperity Funding Assistant for this budget. I thought the $2.6 million is already used up on RPPL 11-23.
Thank you for the question, Chairman. The 2.6 million is an annual amount. So there are 3 years of assistance. The first one being used in the supplemental for this year's budget, 2.6 for next year's budget, and another 2.6 for the following year's budget, FY 2024, for a total of 7.8 million grant assistance from that source.
That money can be used to other things other than conservation.
There are, thank you. There are specific purposes for those monies. So the way we are approaching it is we use the money for the purpose that it's meant for, and that relieves some of the local revenues that could be used for other purposes.
So now let me give the chance to all the senators who are here to ask questions. Okay. Vice President of the Senate would like to.
Sulatsere junto tayo minister. Akora diogel lasel mnegot el FAA sa almea dimnak tayo del 2.6. Tayo longerunga emle 6 million na asel reserve fund. El ang emlamor nga 2.6 es el reserve fund na reduce mo o 3 million madrengel makwa diogel waset ya reserve fund ng maltela available balance ngil el ang legal dirados pe.
Thank you, Vice President. In revisiting the FAA, because it overlooked the 2.6 million, we added the 2.6 million and adjusted the amount from the reserve fund. If you're asking about the amount in reserve, we do have funds invested around 5 million, and then we have additional money still in the treasury kept in the local accounts, and that was about another 5 million. So we aren't using all of our reserves, basically.
Kamnutong 5 million na ngara invested, 5 million na ngara local accounts.
Yes, correct.
Senator, give it mic to Senator Whips.
Sulara te ale Vice Chair, Lututa Minister. Ako misra FAA sildo misra local revenue ito pora breakdown na nangim sa GRT ma import tax. Gidang win matingel was PSL ula tax is going to go into effect January 2023. So understanding that, sengram mo affected ng FAA, or how did you treat that change the tax system going into the budget this year?
Thank you, Senator Whips. Very good question. The projection is not itemized specifically for the new tax. The numbers are just embedded in the gross revenue tax and the import tax. The part of the reasoning is we designed the new tax system to be revenue neutral, so we don't expect that there will be much change from what we're getting now from the existing system. this is just our initial estimate. We will have the final details once we've finished working with the businesses to determine what we can expect. And this is another reason why we want to make sure that we have borrowing authority in case we're off on our estimates and we do need to bring in additional money. The new tax system is designed to take more money from tourists. So if tourism doesn't recover, if the industry doesn't recover, then we won't be getting as much as we expect out of the tax system. But as long as we're ready to pull money from any borrowing, we feel that we will be able to make the necessary adjustments in the 2023 budget until we get the experience and the numbers to calculate more accurate forecasts on the new system.
Sulara and Serga Minister, so understanding that the new tax law was designed to be revenue neutral, we're assuming it's going to be revenue neutral in our FAA going forward. The come budget call for 2024, then I guess the FAA is going to look different because we're already going into a full year on that new tax system, right?
Yes, correct. Also for FY23, because we're not really collecting anything now, revenue neutral means we're being very conservative on our estimate to begin with. So while we do want to have the authority to borrow in case we need it, we don't feel that that's going to be necessary unless something very drastic happens that will change our outlook for a very slow recovery in FY23.
Okay. Sulang. Our last question, and I don't want to hog the mic, has to do with the Ministry of State issue. We passed the resolution, I believe it was toward was it the beginning of this year or end of last year, for the purchase or sale UN office in New York, the UN office building. So I guess my question is, what impact does that have on the Ministry of State's budget? The understanding was whatever monies they're spending for rent now will then be going into a loan repayment for that building that was purchased. Is that the case, or how is that being treated in the budget?
Thank you again for another very good question, Senator Whips. Regarding the new embassy building that was purchased this fiscal year, I believe the building is now in the process of being having the renovations made. And then they will still need to outfit the building. So we expect that the impact will be very minimal on this year's budget. So we don't anticipate a change. So we've kept it basically the same for that reason. As the building is occupied, as things are developing, like for instance any additional savings that is made from use of the building, renting out some of the space, losing some of the cost of staff housing, for instance. There might be some savings, but most likely those savings will be put back into the operation of the building.
Continue, Senator Nirebang.
Sorry, I promise this is my last one. Minister, on the first page of the FAA under financing, you're indicating there's a General Reserve Fund, Compact Trust Fund, and the ADB Rises Tranche 2 PBL loan financing. So I guess my question is, there's a resolution pending before the Senate, and it has been passed by the House. If in the event the Senate does not pass that resolution to give you borrowing authority, can this FAA work or no?
You have very good questions today, Senator Whips. You are exactly correct. And one of my points I needed to make today is to please pass the resolution for the reason of supporting the FAA in terms of revenue being generated by the economy, but more importantly because of the Tranche 2 loan financing that we would be able to use for the budget this year. So if we are unable to secure that funding, then we may have to make adjustments worth $15 million to our operating budget for next year.
We got 15 minutes for the Senate to ask questions, if anybody. Senator Sabaw.
Sulay, Chair. Minister, sabi explain kasi $100 mga airport ng PPF ng ramang pan fund. Yagel baby allocation sa de al show al total budget. Like the $25 that's going to Maigel mo state government. Aigang dimit mo kamedi gamul mo minus ra. I'm trying to understand.
Thank you. So we are
Pension and all of that.
Yeah, we are showing just the allocation that comes for that purpose. The others are not shown in the revenue amount. Because they go directly to those other agencies. They're not through the budget here, so we're not showing it here.
The talpan fund almost is a payout. Upon fund are it's shown here,
Yeah.
but the others to pension plan, to the state government, and I understand the minister kwaseng ngaringisem le issue gi dalawang gila ayata kada wal instead of paying with our right pocket, we'll do it on the left pocket, and then no, essentially that was how it happened. Hindi kasi edal may galudo del charging in airport del mga ticket del wala bel mga pension mga rang mga wada agree kasi tigil nga airport tamo do del galudo del airport the sale budget that normally goes to them will actually go to pension plan na mura state government na mura nga rangaling sigit shelter issue ay taon mo sa edal tungira ticket. I think what I say is that the reason why mo dial show?
Sula Senator, perhaps why say the answer dial so why say ngani sila sources and uses of funds tara spreadsheet let's send ringi or Mr. Segi maybe that will help director clarify ringi. For example sell green fee or Segi del Morapan. Sa total estimate rin reflected ra FAA, le sel 50% rin appropriate rin mo ra apan, sel other 50% na those rin fund ra debt service. Oy. Yung sel mo ra debt service, sel gil sel ralma. Sel water, why say sel water? Ela sel gupo mes sel ngani sel lusek mas PPF PIA. Sel PPF el guk mo ra airport. Seguida directly reflected a special revenue FAA ergi directly sparing il fund el help el support ra funding ra airport man directly reflect ra source and use ra funds ma ngarala I gel direct din mo na state ma pension plan mo wa ko brief sure baby le sen mo mes ra quarterly report me show di gel by long earmark tel mortin man di me so we're not directly spell fund tel budget man directly ngani edi man mal tel mortir.
Oh yeah, panfanda bigo set tangara collection ni mo ngara previous fiscal year ul mong mo reflect al set. Is that also a reason why? Okay. Last question again, Minister. Is it your understanding of kasing gira del mapasara tel resolution before the ACTA budget? El mo avail source ngara ADB? Ma-agreement mong mga order ngora dim la house am lapas ngin meron ka maul magigura under assumption ko singira dal mo say wala do mulbar nga source mo na budget
Thank you, Senator. These are, budget is only a plan. So we can plan to have this, and if those things don't happen, then we have to make adjustments. So we believe that Tranche 2 was an approved loan several years ago, and that the Tranche 2 part that we're talking about needing the resolution for should not be a question. So we feel very comfortable in putting it in the plan that this will be a source that we can rely on. But if the resolution is not passed, that technicality could interfere with the plan.
A question, a question, hindi tayo the resolution. Ada ka di losa da saludo del mora budget. Ang aring saludo da anticipate del mora or state. So the reason, and that could have questions about that resolution, not necessarily related to the budget that in front of us. Masaya ul magidiri kal kora. Kasing mo separate dahil tool resolution, wana kuk tim sa da sel budget, ya wana mo sel kuk additional udo del that we anticipate tamolon out ringin mora igal state government, i.e. core state.
Yeah, if that's the direction you would like to go, as long as we get the resolution, especially for this year's budget.
I give you again because we want to hear question nga of the sweep. I don't think it's.
I think it's safer to, like I said, to plan in case we need the additional money. When we are about to borrow, we will let you know, and then you can tell us we don't like to for you to borrow for core state. That's a kind of a higher level decision that needs to be made by Congress.
Vice President of the Senate.
Sula chair Minister akora di gali ongtila core state amnel asklo ase adorais term bolsa loan out do. Say amne ongitem la core state gora dia understand lo asengral do am la morning guk and abel government tamongu etsel wardil ngul dio de kertel mora budget. Seguida una so sengiral separate egal issues. Egal resolution con elen gagro samora adorais state mamora seluk mora budget. Plus sel transfer sel loan el dingilu sendim la dingilu ika elat tial wuk pesel do ringing additional al sum additional en somam sel contractor lo aset tiagi da mo additional maiga ano bang agreement tergel tiagi del additional 15 million magukto ngel resolution ng mo kadum ngel aset gil ngel gil la tiagi del mortiang.
Thank you. So the reason why there needs to be two resolutions is one, that we are borrowing the money that we plan to give to core state, and then by law, by constitution, OEK must approve state borrowing. So that's why there is a need for two resolutions regarding this particular request from core state. The RISES loan, the policy-based loan, comes in two pieces. But the total amount for RISES altogether is 55 million. So we did not authorize the full 55 million. We used some of that authorization that was given for another loan that was taken. So we're short of the full 30 million. That is the second half of the loan. We received the first 25. Now we're supposed to get the second 30. But we did not originally anticipate that we would need to use all 30 for the Republic. We thought that we could use some of it for core state, and that unfortunately is not the case. The recovery is taking too long to happen. So we're requesting additional funding, which is anticipated in the RISES program. The program identifies 55 million for the Republic, but recognizes a possible need for an additional 45. So a total need for supporting our budget of 100 million. And that's why I'm asking for the additional 25, just in case. You know, if tourism exceeds 2019 next year, we have less of a problem. It doesn't hurt to borrow. It's a very low interest rate loan. And if we do borrow, we can pay it back immediately, no penalty. So we're not in any risk of being prepared. And that's where I'd like to be, rather than being caught off guard and having to rush and waive procurement and all of these things that I know that the OEK is not happy with doing. Thank you.
Vice Chair, recognize Senator Quarte.
So, Chairman, mali clarification lang. Umiyar adra do sen adra do endam san mal blok takl way kamar adra hel makti. Minister sel tal la ang area sel source of funding. Yung was ang area cyclical fund 3.4 million area tuwod. Di sel over tal ayay del babier wa FAA mga raklan. Di sel matigat tayo del word del cyclical fund. Yung natuwad ra ulara Senate was ang area 10 million ang ngara al sel. Once and for all, and sa MLD clarify tiya malati all di tal ara crowd so.
Thank you, Senator Corte, and you are very detailed, so we appreciate that. Keep us honest, but also some things that we do tend to overlook. We're not perfect. So yes, in the passage of the Fiscal Responsibility Act and Debt Management Act, there was a change in the use of the terms general fund to what is now the cyclical fund and also the resiliency fund. Those two accounts have not been set up. We expect that they'll be set up, if not this month, the next month, and then we will be changing the balances shown in the general fund reserve into those accounts. Sorry for that sort of misinformation that comes out of the numbers, but it's more of a labeling issue and accounting issue.
Sel FAL till July 9th. Matial kuktilodra elira 4:56 p.m. Ang wagilul ko Vice President ng 6 million ang sel General Reserve Fund overtiang di 3.4 million. That's like millions of dollars of discrepancy. Makanata explainer sir between July 9 and July 25.
Yes, thank you again, Senator Corte. When we're preparing these sheets, we sometimes focus on making sure that the numbers balance, and sometimes we overlook the specifics. In this case, the 2.6 million from the Blue Prosperity Fund that's supposed to be shown wasn't shown, so we made the adjustment to show the 2.6 million in the FY23 budget, and then adjusted the general fund as a counterbalance. So it's more of a balancing thing that we had to do to correct the numbers. And
so when you adjust, if you have extra money, do you adjust up or adjust low? Because the way it is written, it seems like it went down rather than up. So I'm sorry, it's my naive.
Yes, you're correct. So it's the general fund balances when we approach how we structure the financing for the budget. That is sort of the balancing amount. So when we put the 2.6 into the list of where we're getting the money, then we reduce that last amount. So yeah, it's more of a balancing strategy on how we line up the budget sources and the uses, and then where we get the extra from. Ideally, we want to build the general fund balance, but in this case, we have to draw from our balance.
Okay, the last question. So, cyclical fund is actually in that general fund reserve?
Yes, we have not made the actual change on our books to show the cyclical and resiliency fund. The cyclical fund will be a smaller amount, more fixed amount, and then the resilience fund will be the larger amount. So if you balance the general fund and the cyclical and the resilience, they will equal. But just the change in the name, splitting up the purpose of it more specifically.
Okay, the clarification or tranche 2 loan. Understanding nga kadilol was the trill process awan na didungu. Yawan na dilul was if you introduce ay the PBL law, eko musel tranche 1. And then if you get it past Olvira Lulaw, then you get it tranche 3. That's what I heard from last year para Mayong. Why do we have to have a resolution now when we already went and passed those requirements on PBL? What's left?
Thank you for a good question. Like I mentioned before, we did not ask for the full amount of the authorization because we did not expect to use the other 15 million from the second tranche for the budget. Now those plans have changed. We are going to use the 15 million from the 30 million, the second tranche. We're going to use that for the FY23 budget. So now we're asking for additional money to prepare for a possible need for additional money for various reasons, including, a lack of economic recovery, any other typhoon or something that hits us or whatever. We still need, we just want to be prepared. And then, of course, Core State has asked for additional money, and we would like to assist them.
Okay. Di labo florider ebol mereka karil guk tungu mesti adra house namo 30 minutes ito pang mut tel may.
Msula chair nirto kakari ke bay na moger birar admang tadi one el question na minister ako meses el schedule of revenue tralo sigue el aigel fund aigel revenue logio asip registry again reflected rakaskeletial license and permits.
It should be in others. Hold on, we're trying to confirm.
Sell other license and permits and include la business license ma.
Okay, directors confirm other licenses and permits is where you will find the number.
Ako mese Mr. namo separate sell fira digital residency. Adira lungil da separate segi del ligara si registry merak masih dire kan namo significant amount namo nga million ngila separate ring namo o sure tell breakdown.
Okay, I think that's very doable. We'll include that in the next reporting.
Direct amo bangela morsel end of the each quarter financial report.
Yes, in our standard reporting, Director Mangasal typically prepares that, so he can make that adjustment.
All right. May gunit senator se mustira atra house. Guk logo wallo del bung abol break guk da bung may.
Simsulat chere mostra agrida koram la diosisiu. Di medo open hablar mora members of the house pasumang ya kora specific ligere before the loot el mora sa senete qabo kamsong
Minister tutau agariga mutel gire la egalon se resolution pending la senate pol plaktak le bo pokite po boto ngay ma ako tong de urabelu plaktak la li imong understanding ra sel resolution el passer nga house apart ngi mo approve ra mo possible withdraw ra a transfer sel first tel rises loan sel resolution el passer nga house mo approve ra mo possible withdraw ra 2 million why say el asel sel ang lalon bledo ko tul ngung net tela rogir grade 75 say the authorization.
Yes, as I said, the original resolutions didn't cover all of the RISE's loan, which is 25 million for tranche 1 and 30 million for tranche 2. We didn't expect we would use the other, the 15 million out of the tranche 2. So we didn't request the authorization. So now we're requesting the authorization to cover both the first 50 million and the second 50 million, and then asking for additional money, likely through the RISES program, just to increase the borrowing amount, just in case we need additional borrowing on top of that.
Okay, may la tell resolution na sa kumampas nga Congress, mo withdraw $30 million. Il plus ay get rogo im lamangay, and tela amount ringi.
It still totals 55 million. So don't forget the out of the 30 million, 15 is for this year's budget.
O yung so kan rulitian mo general mo mo do ay rogo loan blada nga maral may.
We had
tela loan blada nga rogo.
Yeah, we had Director Menasao send you a sheet. Is it in the last page of the FA that I guess the second FAA that we provided you? It has the details of the resolutions and the borrowing and the different loans.
Okay.
What's the name of those loans?
Makamhalle masal ka kalel sa MLOIs. Al sugum ka da akali ka gilal blatak. Tela rogi tela igir rogu loan bladangay. Al sugum tel resolution na pas ringi mga monguwa 2 milyon ang mo tela arangale la loan rogi.
So there are basically from the Asian Development Bank related to COVID, we have 3 loans. There is what we call the Disaster Resiliency Program loan, the DRP. We have what we call CPRO, the HEALS loan. It's another name for CPRO. And then we have RISES. Those are the 3 loans that we have used during COVID and we've requested authorizations for. So the yeah, so we've received 60 million so far. Yeah, 15 million from the DRP, 20 million from CPRO, and 25 from RISES, the first tranche. Now we're asking for the second tranche. 30 million, 15 goes to this year FY22, and 15 we're budgeting for FY23.
Ak malwalan so kal literal daw dul more sel kita in the end kita understand ra a total tialo no rogi regardless ang clear lang nga kal papier. Hindi lang gina come up with 100 million o oblam dul wase ulgum sel resolution atungu engar nga additional 25 million. El ulgum ko domongu ya motoral loan el kita moblal serngila future 100 million. Why say India?
Yes. Over 100 million.
Tiya resolution al bang nga Congress sung mo pas ring authorize up to approve ra 25 authorize ra at 25 million. Why say?
Yes.
Okay. Madam lamo takladi mutul last question. Dia kangara resolution ng South Dakota State marang kita swadas transparency ngari plan el mo spare ti legal loan el Dakota State.
Yes.
Sulang Minister.
Additional other more share resolution na adapter nga House sa kasus eli la line 15 el mora line 18 nga packet review. Yak mula siya the amount requested under tranche 2 is 30 million United States dollars with 15 million to be used for the general national government operation and the remaining 15 million United States dollars to be used for national and state government economic recovery efforts. Nang nakatakil nga raw resolution lang wa House.
Maria ngomongin. Maria next again. Kasi minister ang sulang yung chairman ng lakli the resolution sulang because senators lo sa Ocro State at this time man kita yang de klotor webul mo kom lakli ng minister magagdim lamang das suring this mal mo kom das ng among minister ng Ocro State kung kadalo imam mo kaya kita senator na confirm the resolution confirmation na lubang additional fund ng Mora State hindi kam sulang minister hindi mamtem lang ko SL FAA hindi kan dia ka variance ringi say kita ko radri kam next question wasing dependent on supplemental budget de kadam lang alaka supplemental budget ma variance ang ringi so adam mamne ko wasing warang FAA moving forward ro pangalang 2023 mo sumos el provide sir on a later date radri kan so lo mesringi yung wagi say gid ministry radri kan last moding sel mlagari kara sel 2.6 el wala it masel tiang the solver sel general fund len sige damne wan rage de so de loger ngim lakam lak de ngi logwa agel de sisulger di dire wan rage ke minister kam sadra Ministry of Finance ngaring sel 180,000 and more state audits tiang include 16 states mo sa el covering sel alu ngaring agora mo song sa audits kadam sadra ngin so audit ra rogul state mun de agora nombre audit tire kam ne kwasing mal kloa behind the audit the state even ma national ma asum ngaring agora effort del budul segid and so move rogul mo budul segid mo moktir segid agora di next gede.
Thank you, Chairman. There's several factors that cause us to be late on our audits. The states are generally late in their audits. These additional money to Ministry of Finance covers all states. We are extremely behind in our audit for the national government. We expect the draft by the end of this month for FY 2020. By the end of the year, we'll have FY 21 completed. And as of next year, we will be able to update the timing of the audit and have an on-time audit for FY 22.
Just respectively, Masada State or your mama behind the 4 years, 2017 to today, I did audit ringi, ma idrik luling ta support to la audit. Masum said expedite ringi, direct no the masteria other sale available out of the IFP, and maybe we do solo gi officer gawe. Digo mestra amount insufficient, sigida regal more was insufficient amount of gawe get audit at least up to 2022 or 2021.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We have been in discussions with the governor and are trying to support him as much we can. Problem in this area with audit is sometimes not money. It's availability and access. So during COVID, nobody could fly in for the field audit, so that caused us some delay. We had our auditor a bit busy with other more pressing matters like WIOA and prosecution of people, investigation of the problem. So it's sometimes more of the people issue, but we've reassured the state that we are committed to working with them and helping them to come into compliance. And I know the governor has said he's struggling to find people to help them on their side. So we are trying to work together and resolve the issue as soon as possible.
Minister, وما الأدر هاوس أقول أم دست أجل issues so أم الأدرس الأرتال budget the policy so هذا تبع ببيرا existing رودو دمو أدرس أقول مرة سيا pension ما SS أجد الأدرس dia kalau sudah malmul bere gigi program saya dia lifeline moral retirees both the SS ma pension ak bringin ila beleng abolorurnya senet teleme aki mo itaira atretelel ya ada seneta kamatenge tel blue prosperity plan ang medera ada seneta gilngelo sing vodo to spe agel baby la vodo tra fisheries mal hindi tiga gidem na kongel tial plus prosperity plan. May geludo da available lagi na mo missing hilo si sumto ngayon ya ata seneteng na aswil kong yan nga atra house. Mang aktuwa israw ya nga kama Senate President am na ado kama masoma ma 2.5 million and mora. Nagya ko ra gibe ma ado kasi available 1.2 million. Mang aktuwa israw nga ria pa bingamil ang mga Senate President am na to mora tigal chairman mga uirabol mga meeting agi mas kakapis mang heads up le kor kau mga mo ngay mang atsuma gi maru nging ngari hate eleme se milas kara rata seneta mura budget se den mutul mar hearing hindi se apo opposition ra other house ma I hope para other seneta mo pan to it ako dasing tartawid gid der address ngi hindi ako suwede di bukti adresa issues ra bebira isya ay gang improto ititira retirees hindi ako suwede ko sesel kirele hindi ka kim draft ngiding agi ko ra ultas while ka mo do aba bira boloro singim sila betadresa.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm glad that you bring it up. I know that there's a lot of concern in the community about pension plan and Social Security. I think people are worried that this thing is going to happen tomorrow, but I think it's not being explained well enough in the community to a collapse of the fund for any of these two programs doesn't mean that people will stop getting money. It just means they will be getting less money. So there is no absolute collapse. There is still money coming in. Whatever comes in, we can give out. So there is some time. We have already submitted a package for the Social Security, which is a much better program than what we have now. Much better because we're able to adjust people's contributions and people's benefits. So in the future, OEK doesn't need to worry about adjusting it through supplemental funding. And that's what we were trying to do to make it easier for the government, but also to make it better for the people. So the people will get enough money when they retire and they don't worry about inflation because we already adjust the package to include inflation. The Social Security is just one part of retirement for people. The second part is the pension plan. The pension plan is actually in a more difficult position now, but we are already starting on working with the consultants to do the modeling and the actuarial studies to redesign the pension plan to fit better with the Social Security. So it's not like we're trying to save the plan. We're trying to make it a better plan overall, not just Social Security, not just pension, but pension and Social Security together. And I think we will be able to give you a bill. That's our objective, is by the end of the year, you will have a bill for the pension plan that will make it a much better system, I think, for everyone. And my personal hope is we can add the private sector into the plan and that they can benefit from this kind of program in the country. And this is something that people need and the private sector is already looking for. Many companies have already signed up for pension plans out of Guam. So we know that there is interest in the private sector. We need to design our public program to also provide those who cannot access those programs outside. So, you know, we have started the process. We've had our second meeting and we've sent a request to the consultants to do the design, and then we will have a public meeting to like a workshop, and then we will come out with recommendations, and after those recommendations we will ask a lawyer to prepare a bill, and it'll have all of those information that you will need to or will want to study to understand how it will work in the future. But you know, we are trying to make sure that we have a better plan in the end, not just the same plan that we have now. Thank you.
In the meantime, Minister, Hindi la silba biligela Senate President mas bigay mera respective Ways and Means Committee abla katak tial longit la se de ngwatelan million mesti al budget it's not a fix it's not a going to fix anything. It's basically just to support SS and pension, so the outgoing payment every year, this coming year, will be a little bit less than what it was last year because what they collected, SS and pension, is smaller than the payout. So basically, that's what we're trying to fix it. And of course, we do have a bill sent to us to OEK by the President, el que era la reform of SS. A self-pension plan, if you're not aware, in FY 2018, the OEK appropriated $150,000 per the request of Pension Plan Board. So they hired a firm from Singapore, $150,000, and did a study. The bill was drafted by the House Legal Counsel while I was still in the House. It was introduced, then we had COVID, so the Ways Committee of the House then was instructed to hold on to it. Well, when this new Congress, the Senate introduced the same bill, and the same bill is in the Ways and Means Committee, and it was recently, I guess, given to our Floor Leader Committee to work on it. So I hope we're not doing too much study with the pension plan and prolong the issue. I think that Millie Mann report is most professional. We spend $150,000 for it. If we don't utilize that, that's money down the toilet. So I like for you to bring your attention to that and maybe give it to your consultant to look at it because that is a well-put report. So, this is a ako ragere. Nga ka lakakarire, any senators, nga niya. Okay, Skabaw, I would like to ask a question.
Oh, hali. Sila resolution eh.
Oh, hali. Kung chairman al game continue. Ano po arurang.
Sulaku komiteru chairman na Ways and Means ako te gureng asulu sel FAA ato meseng gura mal healthy le sel bor sel 20 sel FY 2023 ngwa ngaria triple crow tara ay get revenue molai indi diwaya medel wa kwartel dak sarmal mudu ragel diter urin dak adra business indi goram no menciona sel 10 million e komla mangli mede elatri e sola e direct sel fisheries funding a 2.6 ang aring igi terminal sel 25 million sel ngari resolution gimle pasi leko igi mo mis ter budget e kung ko man de adra government ministry 25 era adra state ta kwadia kamang ako mesra sangaban direct kuam nom logo igel kuam rakar kumiwa la direct lo to swegel la dimla ka kora mora state sigil 75 mang ngwa yongit wagel bra loga speaker abor subele presidenta senate critical adra state critical adriel gather angara 75 artil ling ado mesra fa en kora maran mo healthy ngara gel bebira udo dir legal mention and mede di Vice Presidenta Seneta koram titur or tela yelu do mundia udek mai gen sebe del kora ma bebil do la gel state ngwa mo tapsula complementary gideling ndio siul adalo shortira state ma national adio siu igi kita ko di kansul nga ke rudi mo al bol kora sebe ele sula
Mam saule chairman ni kita lera president ma speaker ma to gile la fisheries protection trust fund malungil mang kadamal supporter ngi dire ke kadangatiang president kau mas speaker dire ke gulngit ngari selbil aquaculture dire ke incentive program mala food security mali mo ke kare ludo da boto te badir ngi gul mo release el program mak mali ngatia olngit adang chairman surak
Mapamam lang yakadim. Kabo.
So lang chairman ng malungit total mora president ra senate mar senator sa mga speaker ma arabek ng delegates nito tayo minister ka ma a director chairman na kamama ko ram ang sokal ko ra follow up persel le comment ra chairman na kamam ralul ka ratoira audit ra state ako ra awi ko le minister wasing ngaringi milkat moklal budget ng mga audit so lang tekile la audit regal state ngaringi audit amina budget allocated mga audit emra kong alak alwidang ngaringi al sela wase aikel state na conduct audit tir kire la national government mo o kora reimburse o we pay back kay gil state ang kuk na conduct audit regil rakartir makor o gel wase ang kora na mo uday kal nga financial report ma budget kora dia kisang alwaseng sing na kora happen al Maria state for example la state tara nga karayray al kinle again regularly kimrur audit makora waseng nga assure anything or a financial report malubeng take the proposed budget el girela reimbursement el girela legal state na conduct audit ling kukura incentive mortir el multirak wase la conduct audit marako campaign market baby state kuktira hal conduct audit tir mangkora question hal wase seng sure any report el waseng rule. I hope I'm making sense, Minister. Come koro o ice.
If I understand you correctly, Delegate, I don't believe I've seen any report that specifically talks about the states as a whole and reports on them individually. Of course, public auditor is responsible for conducting state audits, and a lot of times they contract those audits out to a private party. But if you look at the audit reports that are available on each state, there is a very, very wide difference in what each one is doing and what problems they're having. There is some similarities that they are having trouble with procurement. They are having problems with keeping accurate records or following national law or state law in compliance. But I think it's worth the effort that we sit down and try to approach the states as a whole as far as they receive national money and encourage them to improve their systems. And we're happy at Ministry of Finance to assist them. As you know, the current time we cover a lot of payroll for different states and make sure that they are paying their Social Security payments, NHI, MSA, make sure they're paying their taxes, which also becomes a problem when they handle their own payroll and mistakes happen and they're left alone for too long. So I think it is something that we should address separately and try to collect as much information as we can and then figure out which way we should try to help them.
Minister, kahalik clue to elaborate akarik. Ang mem ko di gusto ng la state ray. A state ray hire their own auditor, tamalara private auditor. Makora o kelwase. I remember segid el mun amle illa orin budget el toba del mora audit emro kong nani segid el tigil national government el wase orin lo ngaria consensus el wase kada mo reimburse ay state have been regularly doing their own, their own audit. Mga korogel wase kumlaw reimburse rather state a state rairadim langil at their own budget at conduct auditor tir. Mang kumla take into account reimbursement or en communication al wase ko kirelker aka sige wal koramle consensus al kirela repay back malube kom reimburse sa state government al kuk is an incentive al tiramle regularly to conduct auditor tir on their own. Ang akmal din speaking for IRI.
We are not aware of this situation, so we can look into it and find out if there is expenses that were incurred by the state for an audit that we are already supposed to cover. So we'll look into that specifically for IRI.
Ministerial, I remember lo korawa lo incentive let tamle abide with segil kukora le requirement national matamlo rulim. So I think ang state raira up to date auditor tir. They've been regularly doing it on their own, with their own money.
OEK kabangan yang ngotot ke? Kabar sinsa.
Total minister. So, MSSL will submit a budget ngani sel 2.55 sel 2.5 million gila sel automatic fuel price adjustment. Gila madian masang ngani sel 1.4 mle appropriation gila la sel 0 to 510 cents per kilowatt. Sel domes etian nombre el quarter mla nombre ga asegi del duabla lisa para over 400,000. We continue with the 900,000 el fund the same. Di dome sa budget en komlilia 2.5 million lagi. El gukmalat kel gil 2023 el gil la segi de los civil subsidy. So kadi minister dome sa sel tial budget en qadim na de sa sel gukudou del moral lifeline subsidy. Maybe en la sabil gora wa isir gil wasing si el programa ng wangara utodringi real time bododngel wasing ngospe audo daluban dia already we know kwasa 2.5 already tries to be appropriated or appropriated el get kay gid tograf back.
Yes, thank you, Delegate Sinsak. There are several budget items that were not funded from this year. Of course, Social Security and pension contributions were one of them. But regarding PUC, the AFPAC 2.5 million, as you notice, is there. The additional money for Lifeline and the general assistance to people up to 10 cents per kilowatt from this year, there is the balance that remains, and we are not adding to that balance right now because there is a balance. As well as the Lifeline subsidy, there is a balance, so we're not adding any more money to it at this time. At a later date, we may add additional money to those budgets, but it's not requested in this budget.
Yeah, Sulang, we just want to make sure, Minister, the change threshold of more 20,000. We're expecting more people to be eligible under the 20,000 salary. So the other make sure in the so other malasel afpang are they benefiting from the 10 cents subsidy 0 to 500 as well? Still you got a Lifeline subsidy. Are they also getting the money from 0 to 500?
Yes, in the way we designed the program, they should be receiving assistance under that 10 cents subsidy. But we will double check, confirm with our people and PUC that they are receiving that assistance. If not, we will try to get them to receive it as soon as possible.
Sula, Chairman Dimnegi.
Masing ladiga makmaulan mas ka, Senator.
Terus ke bawah.
Maldi clarification sel resolution sel House Joint Resolution al pass ringi may sel 25 million na diakal osada fiscal year 2023 ngirel 2024 200 al 15 million minister sel jal 25 million sel fiscal year ngari say agirel 2024 diakal 2023 lelal kitam sadra al budget already ngara tranche tool ngara al sel tal budget al mo sel 15 million. So you're talking about 25 million, di 15 million or siya mo sadra 2024 budget. Ko ba kapil sel resolution?
Not in front of me, but the idea is that if we are going to support Core State with that money, it needs to be in FY 2024.
Oh yeah, dako sa Core State, hindi ko kasi mo confusing iling. Kada already kam lang wa tranche 2 sadra al budget al 2023, sadra 25 million sadra al 2023.
Yeah.
Balgula kasi taludo dong mura nga. Aknik mo alam mo ko rin sa kada malaringi because we need to do the Core State say Brazil girela next fiscal year, right?
Or even this fiscal year.
If also mo nga nga sa sel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ding sel date. Oh, okay.
Sir, halidi. Sige lolgor niya senator sa ba minister sel lolgor 15 million sel ngara FAL 15 million sige dia adosado dringi. Dia adosado 25. Sula.
Yes, correct.
Senator Tabluan.
Sauli chair. Karigala amali korga director. Angkester sel udo sekolah kemudian udo dari akal dongi tenti kiring lawai ngayang asaklil. Di sel kau ngania kau tu sing lamu anak lungela lu ma tengkira school since legal ngasaklil mortir. Di forak kemudian leklong di gal resentel angalira ala lalu ma rate PUC. Hindi ako kung namok lo lari tial orang lela bacetre mo. Ngania ko aklau tengi garsi.
Como senator kan mem lutul yo.
Sel cloud tengi garsi namok lo lara lalu ministry of todo tengi lo mara lalu operation madeng girtir. Ngania ko aklau tengi amos yang lamas mo angak lungin.
Sula senator say diak I don't have the exact figure. We know masya ara lalu ay galigera bas ma definitely garo good school di mas ayak by wa hospital ma capitol gimudangit masen direct na morba mabla bulis I'll get the figures sa markwasyen lo mangem.
Okay, akti duli sa gibilang kumlam di wasa gisel lami kote kadamanga kay fixed cost maselak sura pachitra mo imranya yakal klong. Decision magil private school or triente direct tu telo do domestic mal decision amount ega do mangil o sen direct mla kakara aden kirtir ma dakasal lulun dakalo wasen di tengirtir malangari arole level si gukora ngana kasi sira subsidy ministry triamo agel do la monia value lo do la si amount ako se tira no malbab Masel actually involved in mo operate a school o ngasira a real programs. Diak elakala ngtangat ngil namoni audo mo adro grior. Di tial lakakat maklera school regel lospe. Akpadgere lara kat mano songso. Tinta kaldo legal budget ating ilas makten tayo sa semesa gigil bebiratan tingila. Audo mas school ang budget ng sutirira Libeta igen la increase tira dengi maral e siamo el mo tira operation sulang.
For this fiscal year, Senator, the supplemental really helped out the school system, especially with the food program. And they were affected very much by the rising cost of electricity. They also had some turnover, so the payouts of the annual leave to those people who were separated from the government also impacted their budget more than usual. So we did, with your help, provide them additional support on the supplemental. And we were also in constant communication with the minister to try to provide him with other resources that he needs. So regarding the food program, they had some additional help from Cross-Act, from the PrEP program, and we were able to allocate money for them from that program to continue to let those people work and help with the food program. So we are trying to do as much as we can to support the schools. The private sector, yes, they are affected as well, and we'll need to try to figure out how we can provide some more support to them. Thank you.
Alasta lamokang gestel tegi del 75 cents la angari. Akti waram lulu urima segale sebi ulgu kola subsidies la cents ma private school. Tirige diaga di imol ngesel mo ko sutir segi del increment. Usen mo sa klabu pa public ekon attractor team to tovra classroom mel to sigaudu. Ya the subsidies in this is around sur bertir. Masumara rola buwa kalmento ase omhara sen segim special difference la angari 75 cents. And attract rabia sen ma private school they do deserve to have good teachers. Sigara dire kolangnya sul ma private school ase. Those teachers in nga private school se del ngoso tira to angari. Arang arang se uspanya so. Dia kadil bora lagi indera all the way mora 12th grade. Tigal nga indera private school nga angari di warbe klave. They do hard work and they hardly get the pay that they deserve. Sula.
Yes, thank you. We agree, and I think that's a very policy level issue we need to discuss the executive branch and the OEK. Thank you.
Senator Cuarte would like to ask a question. Oy. Oh, halal. Di amnak pula siya kum nombre kan di gimisimat dial. Pong. Asa kamrur mo como out front.
Malmsole chairman tadi ko ko minister. Ako mo sa tel budget ra palau environmental quality protection board. Omesra kumela udor tira motmok ngil girela garngila kokel belau a development. Maudol maralmer mada. Swada belau bol lungil mora bekel toy. Tiang enough tira sabril lo bang el mula y el tokol mokloro tira motmok sulang.
Thank you, Delegate. As with most of the budget, we've kept it at the same funding level just because we don't have much money. So it's fair to everybody to just try to maintain where they are now, except for those that experience considerable more difficulty because of the higher cost of fuel and electricity. So yeah, we do support the EKPB and the work they do. Unfortunately, we cannot give one agency more money than the others who also have a good reason for additional money as well. But thank you for that comment.
Delegates. Namodiak. Okay. O kabo delegate Kaday.
Chairman lamsal ko mas hard time makikora mal depende le kaule ka chair elang makikora I say biak minister tiakor akora I don't was there baby kama matir kikora mle kakalulaw rin di hale kora pa kumuringil sel domesra ngayon sel financial report kurang mal beto ka receivables mkaledik pora atokor hospital I can receivables sel dirga kam kalek tamal ubeng receivables sel kum montas sul mo kalekta sel quarterly report el waseng ngara 9 million I can hospital I can mudo del mave el dirga kalharaw malubeng ngukuro ng dirga kalharaw ara adal etabo lang kam kora specify ring minister.
Thank you. A very good catch there on the quarterly report. So I think generally there is a challenge with the collection of receivables for the government. Let me just use an example that we recently were discussing just this week. If you look above the hospital receivables, you see that the total accounts receivables for the general fund is 2.8 million. The largest amount there is with the PPEF, and that's a major concern, right? The PPEF is very important funding for many different agencies. But the 1.2 million of this money is from one particular charter flight several years ago. It involved a person who passed away, and we are in the court pursuing his estate to collect those monies. So it's a little bit overstated, and I've asked the National Treasurer to look at writing off those so that it's not overstated. The hospital receivables, I'll have to get the detail for you. I don't have it with me, and then I can report to you. But again, in general, different agencies like the airport and customs and the hospital, they issue billings, but not necessarily anybody collecting them. So I'm working to set up our tax office to be the collector for the government, and then we can have them be on top of these things more so they don't get too big. So I'll try to give you the information on hospital receivables, but just so that you know, that is my plan for revenue tax to be the collector for government.
Sige der chairman ako ra ngudringil wase makadaw ko ra mamdas waseng finance sa kalungil already del collect ay kaludod or hospital ang keltangan di ako ko ra Mr. Sell side of the coin al wase kalila bular admal lakal harawa pilar tiran di tiang insurance sangaringi makami maradol mitra minister mo pol find out del spedidale dia del hospital and dire kalungan other receivables di hospital et 2 million la receivables sa ringimang kamasaw le minister mo mas mama detail
se global goal minister akum dastim na mo time le tia report o tila 9.5 million. Because the amount reflects billings beginning April 2011. At 2011 now we're bunya insurance. So perhaps Emerald Bagel Malago, number time to write off something. What's going to happen by going forward, the next report, a move after insurance will be outstanding, receivable, ma prior, mong mo to, masama ut, sabi sila nga kaumrang alkwasing less than 1 million ablals albodo insurance merela tiang mostly 211 the 211 nga albodo insurance namon niya amora gurura Philippine Hawaii again hopefully our next report by being Again, what to sa Sakawa Foundation, again ngarang mga sasakawa abalsit or nganya katwa bal dom skitap doklu daw.
Thank you. According to the director, these are the support for payroll. So as soon as we spend, we make a claim and then we receive the funding.
Elak pusat ala Senator Corte.
Sulang minister ko Mr. Tiale, Mr. Chair. Ako Mr. Sele quarterly report. Ya tay amount raw do dun the spend del mora minister health lang ang 45 million. Ngalia 10 million local fund. Ngalia 2 million federal program. According to sa report, itam na yel medal 35 million, itam na amoy ta 14, medal 18 million. Bebering mal redundant. Makti, gura this statement the minister was sa lang crunch timing. Elizabeth mo mes sabi pira yeta consolidate mo sabel harawa pira yel el relieve local fund. Because igal federal programs it's a matter of communication and more project officer kasi ay gagi mo spe. Hindi na the NCD ako na mo to list and the NCD fund ko value is still NCD fund available. So I don't know why kada kakawa del gire lagi kare NCD fund. So maybe ladi akal preview tegi del meeting ergit. Then when it comes to crunch time, elakaw daw and gire del mobilize ay gire rogul resources. Ngora inaccurate tadi dul wasyaw daw del ma ministry held at 10 million. Elakat account retail almost 32 million in federal program funding. The baby niya redundant, they are spent since 2019. Makumdas ang lawing labo doon sa minister as a whole. Makumdas ang kita del may karagul funding el merbelaw, o mesra outcome rather than the mesra amount. That's a lot of money, 45 million. Kitel malaloan for 30 million or something. This statement, bro.
Thank you.
Aram namo 1 hour and a half daw yamang ngariadas tel question sa House of Delegates sa laki. Hale bo delegate to obey.
Minister ungil maaswelbe the clarification. Ako Mr. Tele FAA ra yang page lang. Page 3 sel FDS sel Fiscal Day scheme. Ako meseng ngarnya actual collection na ngara 4,000. Edir ngara 68% project collection re lang. Iya ngara July by end of September and kada expected anticipation ng 100% collection by end of fiscal year. Sa kita ko na dikir.
Thank you, Delegate. Good question on Vessel Day scheme. We understand that there has been additional sales of days. We have not received those yet, but we're thinking maybe there is a chance that we may not reach the full collection amount that is budgeted for Vessel Day scheme.
President of the Senate.
Minister ang kadamrang na atito all time kadakora dio mesay gel kora musip edel realize ludo dado mes tel quarterly report ng aring sel local non-lapsing projects. Ese total ngi agil available budget at 20 million. Yeah, why see ngara 20 million. Ageng akora ako sa igang jakat sa pedal ko ramorulya laan mo nyata temela ikan lan lapsing luasin denglak erura kal suman dia kal implementing revertal mera national government ay ludo mal klo wal otlo do del medel e dia kad implement mga akora di gorit tiang legumesin klo dia dingar tial ay gatela Middle 3 pages. Start at page 12.
Thank you, Vice President. We thank OEK for the language that they put in the other bill that allows us, regards to the general fund, after so many years, we can cancel that budget authority and take it back for reappropriation. 2 years. But when it comes to grant funding, it depends on the particular grantor. So I know, for instance, Department of Labor, we have to send that money back. So some of it is just negotiations, and the rest of it is management. Make sure if we have money, we spend it. And that gets to your point, Senator Corte. Unfortunately, we cannot be in charge of Ministry of Health, but we do try to help them through the Budget Office and through Treasury with the Grant Management Office.
Okay. Well, I hate to critique your employees, Minister, but I think your employees are just reproducing this report and non-lapsing every quarter. Because, for example, 30,000 to Pelilio Marine Transportation, every time there's money to Pelilio, within 1 month they already receive it, yet it's still listed here. So my request is perhaps on the next financial report and end of the quarter, please maybe have someone really look at this non-lapsing and delete all the ones that has been expended. Because when you read this, it just repeats this is, you know, Gorsel story ra igel dengi bura ablilio ang ramong ada mul ngau reading e memra ling ada ukmol just siu reading. Just siu reading malut tel liga ngabar baktu tel misira dengi mises. Anyway,
yes, thank you. We see that it is fully expended, but we still report it. Yes.
There's probably $1 million, $500,000 so in there that's need to be. Anyway, last save some questions till the end. Dalabong, Nico Temet. Halal Senator Sungino.
Ya minister ko la amne tatsunya senator Cuarte ay gigil sel nga ka kansulo nga NCD fund del 800,000 yung wada maasangan masadra 800,000 ya al 8 milyon nga Ministry of Health ada kal sabi del ruti alo bang Ministry of Health korom da so sige kung makaranga da organize rigit mo por sabi del pangal 800,000 el mangrelen gel 2 milyon lul turnir belaw mil sabi el ngari awro lo mangkala para National Youth Council el collateral organizer tir makal el dabe era bulul mo sabi el tap into that NCD fund lo sparing il mangrelen gel do outside segura di sistagament but I don't know how kamawarit ding last start awro para National Youth Council el collateral mutual organizer ni MLC ni to become ay gal neso sabi el rep tel mora el dabe era bulul sige na korondas.
Thank you, Senator. I have the same feeling about these accounts like the NCD Trust Fund. If you recall, the original design was for a committee to be established to accept grant requests and to process those, and then it changed back to appropriation by Congress and then moved back to the committee style. So I think there is funds there, and we need to decide how to use them if they're needed. But with your request for the youth, we advise, especially state governments and other NGOs, if they're interested in funding, try not to target a particular fund, because then we have to live and die by what that agency says is available. So what we recommend is you write to the president requesting support for a program, justifying why this is important, and then copy the Ministry of Finance. And then we will look for additional funding that might be available to you that you're not aware of. So that's just a suggestion for getting funding from government.
So lang delegate taktimolo ko be so delegate senator minister ang kora hindi ko din la sak para man understand that tingin la delegate senator Cuarte ma asumino ding tingin kora medal mo in line lo ang kel say ay kay kidal wase el ay kay kidal se domes nga ka well first of all nga kamal teya second term nga ke osisul time ak lang national government temral portal kisa financial report tel multa a federal grant nga ke local grant ultra report chairman makmal matra minister na kut makliamra lungil tial dokora omis ringil report relara a quarterly financial report katingi kan mesay gal grant available makari ke minister awase ako korabi familiar still historic preservation fund hindi nga ko umalal wasin nga mutal baby ra grant lola a national governmental from the OI ma agriculture and so forth makwakari ka kasi ay kel grant ay kanda ka sa el kora poto again wasin mal mga raus paleleng altan sa el cook free up para local revenue Mamos sa eda low spe ling awat tegi del albolo langaringin el ang wangara de kumisang man putok ha balance sa raiga ludod available budget rila raiga ludod tiang third quarter report. Ikuna mal putok ha balance sa ringegang mga kariga ko na kasi ngaringi air chairman ngaringi possibility sa eda kuka uspe kagi del federal grant. Hindi ko din lasing ko na inline lo pagkalay kin mamuto hindi sabi ko mile free up local revenue ban sabi ko local revenue mo accommodate traikal domestic albule dari langara increase sa salary pension ma-SS kasi kita ko rakari kay sulang.
If we can do it for blue prosperity, they can do it with anything. Hindi ramral gire del mitra president, mitra recipient ay kal fundraising kita potong itak ngay, but nobody make the first step. So let this Congress make the first step. So madadura chairman sa Senate and maybe madadura Paules sa Senate mas speaker and let the issue a leadership olbi el mura president, Minister of Finance, Tirgel Minister malabatok grant. Deng akmadengel Vice President sa Senate staff retire bolangal reporting raikang roong ewal olbi medel alsils. It seems that tigal malaikal grant umrabarta tigal grant umrabarta hiring read umrabarta all kinds of stuff akmstala hospital mal YC wala all dingal hospital sulang. Tsera nga niya kanil, hindi ako sa ala Senator Udi, manggura magtatal yoldars.
Commissioner Chairman Isali, Captain, Minister of Finance, Adame, Malungil Sweldo. Sele, issue a Ministry of Health, accounts receivable, the rates niya toktang. Moment sa sel maklo receivable, if I recall correctly, please check our records of me. Sel tamra lorura medical records, laong itil olbi, laong itil government. Mnor nga issue medical records, mnor nga discrepancy, mnor nga kadawti, mnor nga gaps. There's issue tam nga yung account receivable at that time. Ako na sila amnetal report sa Bibil. Please check man. Also mo message ka report. Ebom releaseable historical data sa yung finding ng kami. Emo sisibit yang tiamrak loan. At that time it was around 12 million. Munda ko dik masakom reports and then tiam na mutra accumulator mo 9 million. So that's the question. Ela, kita next question ng Minister according to the budget. Kung mention sila Good Governance Act, fiscal responsibility, debt management. Di akmol nitra, lotira kasalon tira chairman isaan. May giblam admit lo sing lawat tergiblo tak rawrel tele submit ra budget. Mansum salon tira chairman isala sem nutra resubmit ringi malmlar kami May. Motion sa title Michael addition, Michael amount. I think it would only be proper. Malagi po mega amendment more saying. Submit rin kung make those necessary corrections, I think it will reflect about lungin maging mo acting accordingly. Sila 500,000 tele title ra. Ela tigidawan na concern ministerial kung dasyo kung nga compact negotiation team. Ya kung dasyo direct mo affecta na kabalo tagan numbers ra blur belaw. I think blur belaw operate on two parallel lines. A parallel sel dakmesang ra federal grants, grants. Mga sa local revenue gida di idalgin malge kare tokoy directly throw caution to the wind sa tiang adreka ulma adra ADB IMF ma international partners ak mga kadam na graduate tal ang maklo amount per agagidal grants ding wal silent tralo agagidal or lurere la Ministry of Finance mo all vil agida dim sa da kan gigare local revenue ma aktiyo umesangi Mr. Minister kalib udira sele Segil good governance and reporting. Direct notice sa budget line or Ministry of Finance. Opo mo sa selan item markang about 238,000 it may the most issuing ma Vice President the Minister of Justice. Yung overall na MO cheng 0. Overall rogon Ministry 58,000 na Ministry line. Elakawa 238 ang self footnote to saying of that amount if necessary ang mura state audits. Yung naseng S kadagdag matingin rogok maseng there's a lot of lacking malabing 4 years behind or more. If nakalungin siya sing blur belaw. So it's all about trying to get the funds out of this national budget and mo kung dasing satisfy sa political need. Hindi nila kami sa tel aranglan makulingit sa sige the amount of 180. Maybe should be a separate line item and more requirement like a local state. So they're bound by it, they're bound by again the good governance law. Mong masipil nga ni accountability, transparency, as we've heard of some of our colleagues in Malakoy. Tigada ka, akadi minister makugera ka lang. O sa nga material economy forecast na EDB friends sa US graduate school as mo improve 25 year 2025. Sayang feasible. Sa moment sa ngayon, sa per forecast ng tigal economist. Sa abela mo sa economic growth will hit 2025. Sa sabi man comment, tringik mula sa wara, may galing movement tra military in May maroko. Ngara ko ra ngaringir el alta maulong makro movement tra military together side. Legume sa gal revenue collection. Ngara 75%, that means like his business is normal. They get revenue mula the military activities, so ulman ngara collection. Sa commenter sa igin. Sulam.
Thank you, Senator Rudim. I really have to give my staff a lot of congratulations for the work that they're doing. They put together a lot of information, and we're able to have discussions, important discussions, because of that information. Unfortunately, we're just a reporter. We don't run every ministry. So specific questions for departments like Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, or even state governments, all we can do is report. With regards to the state audit, it's up to the state to open its books, to schedule available time for the auditors to come in, to provide all of the reports that the auditor asked for. So we can support the state, but only so far because they are independent government. So it is a challenge for us, but we are willing to do whatever we can to help them to update their audits because it's very important. Regard to your point about economic growth, most of our economist partners are very leery of providing forecast to us, and we understand that. So when we put the forecast in our official reports, those are our forecasts, and we generally tend to be even more conservative than the consultants. The reason is the consultants have been saying that we're going to recover next year, and then we're going to recover next year, and then again recover next year, and then how fast the recovery will happen is really unpredictable. Based on what we're seeing in the major markets in Asia, we think that there will be a recovery. Because before the pandemic, most of our customers were coming from China, and what's happening in China is not getting better, it's getting worse. We think that will be a lesser part of our recovery for now. So that's more uncertain. So if we do recover, it'll be from the traditional markets, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and we don't expect much from China initially. So we probably won't bounce back as much as we would like. The U.S. military is a good type of tourist for us. They generally spend a lot of money on retail establishments, especially bars and restaurants. But often they are exempt from taxes. So we don't see much of a direct impact on our government revenues. So it is good for the private sector and specific businesses, but it's not something we want to rely on. But at least for now, it does help in providing some economic activity. It's just not that big of a part of our recovery is what we're expecting. Did I answer all of your points?
Suraget Chairman, Mr. Udo Jr. Kuktrikal aludon Marcel bringa la President tra Senate mas Speaker sem saudra pension ma SS. La se kuna sing mal long overdue issue gather gut makli. Diesel goreng sala aku leadership at time ng wasay. Tiada kal madam mol man deplete tra funds. which might go against the fiduciary duty or other longer legal funds. So for the leadership to stay quiet about it, they're illegal. Because complicit in that questionable nature expenditures. Mak direct rolling ito kami sa kam neutral Mr. Seman sumungiran mo ukrala presidente. We need to do it and that's well ding ara here saying. Leng mlame there are concerns with the board members and was saying because mla force a hinder till mo deplete the future funds. Yeah, dasing internationally lakal mo naman to kita omesa na anniversary kita mla crash. Mung selo direct rolling ito so let's not follow in their footsteps. If you have to put in the right guidelines, good governance, I think it's time lo sa kami biyang maruring ilo kung ngaring time na pasrala. That PGST amran may, and that's going to so they'll do a revenue. Somebody's going to pay for it, and that will be the consumer. At your public, it's good for the government, but somebody's going to pay for it somehow, some way. Le PUC mong maran may this wakal note to say the chairman was saying, "Komlangwa there are both leadership at Tel House. Some are please and put it in the pipeline or legality, and they can fair on course or board to spend the money that's not theirs. It has to be prudently managed. I think that's a requirement by law." Sula chairman.
These last three questions. The first question is, Minister, what's the balance of the Fish Trust Fund as we speak now?
Thank you, Chairman. If you look at the third quarter, June 30 end report, the balance in the account is 2.7 million. Attachment J towards the back of the report. It's like 4 pages from the back, the quarterly report. Yeah. The balance on the report for June 30 is 4.2 million. 4.269173. And I do have updated reports I'll give to you separately.
For $3.4 million for the wages and salary increase for the government civil service employee only. So that's for the civil service employee only. That doesn't include PNCC, PPUC, PCC, the semi-autonomous agency, right?
Correct.
If this become law before October 1st, will the increase be effective October 1st going forward?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Tigil nga lablu loreng sa kasityal langari lorgit niya president ng tial budget mo mas uli at civil service. Assume tiala ang mga signed by President October 1st that siya ang ari. Amo mo loader October 1 naman mo.
Thank you, Chairman. The way that the increase is structured is an adjustment to the government pay scale. But yeah, essentially every employee gets $6 a day base salary.
So somebody making $40,000 is still going to get a $60 per payday increase.
Yes.
Everybody. Suka am kaya ludo, mura mo civil service, mo suka makludo, o ang emit telail, Adi mo nguwa $60. El bi-weekly increase. May say, Minister? So everybody
Yes, except me.
will be.
Yes, those people who are statutory or on contract, because they're not part of the scale.
So, last question, and then I will give this mic to Vice President of the Senate. If you recall, when we were working on RPPL 11-12, which is FY 22 Unified Budget, in our legislative findings, the OEK show its intention, and the President agreed with us, that we requested that the executive branch or the President look into a possible use of 35 million out of that 65 million that was given to us during the Mangsao administration and was invested in the trust fund. The committee wants to know, did you make an effort in trying to talk to US about the use of that? Legislative findings, if I can
Yes, this is part of our discussion with the United States, although we don't want that to interfere with the discussion we're going to be having with them next week. But yes, they are aware of our thinking that we would like to use our money that we put in the trust fund.
Lastly, before I give it to our Vice President, now that the airport terminal has officially been transferred to the, what's the name of that corporation that's made out of Japan, Palau, when do Palau staff keep putting money in there, like we're doing today in this budget? Because it's our understanding that once our operation of the terminal airport is actually up and running, that Palau will not fund any on the tarmac side, on the terminal side, not the outside, not the runway and the tarmac. And so it's our understanding that when we pass that law, that once there was a corporation that was created. What's the name of that corporation?
The acronym is PIAC.
Yeah. And is that corporation actually up and running?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so when do we stop putting, when does Palau stop putting money from PPEF into that? Now, since it's an independent company now. Can
Yeah, so sorry for that. The corporation operates the terminal and generates its own revenues to operate as a company. Any monies that were allocated to airport operations of the terminal are used for other things for the airport, not for that company. Yeah, so you're correct. The company is operating on its own resources at this point.
What about the landing fee? Where's the landing fee goes? And how much is it annually?
Yeah, there is a schedule of which money goes to the corporation or is shared by the corporation and which one stays with the Republic. I can get you the detail separately.
Kashmir, maybe give us a report on the past. Of course, hindi nakasko game gurat. Which is kind of like to know wala landing fee, gurat di opartra al siltial end of the quarter financial report. Teman dia kalau siltial landing fee wangrang aklungel. We believe that al Google open air ding aklo. Okay.
Yes, we will get that for you.
Nama dia ka chair mak Sa Vice President sa Senate, ti alam ko.
Sula chere kora werom close di giram nelo sengkan ministera direk lom tera belaul mura ADV. Gaka benor ADV lom tera blur belau. Em nelo aset tiale kias pesel kias pendindingar ore de kalbra irai. Se narinya babilingela asi ora PUC mera presidente kamamal masao del girela payment tertire la ragluabol telmral meragluabol la kalsibir lo yang. Mataas kakalmente direk kora ikaw ungra ara direk ungra ara PUC mang kala direk kalsibir mang kora maklamasi olbil wasa kadamral bulgar tial loan e mga payment telmoring.
Thank you, Vice President Marior. We're aware that we have not paid PUC for that second tranche for the policy-based loan from ADB. We have not received the funding yet. As soon as we get it, we will be transmitting all of the money to them. So we're aware that that they have not received those funding. It's just we haven't received it either. The paperwork is signed. It's just a matter of getting it from the bank.
Nga kamasaw do sel na payment mo tel cash pa tel suwer loruring ya.
Yes, I'm talking about the policy-based loan. With CASP, there is not enough money available to finish the project. So our priority is to secure whatever additional money is necessary to finish that project for what we have now, the pump stations and the additional line over that dock next to Elilai restaurant. The problem there is another Japanese grant that is supposed to do the improvements to that bridge. So we're trying to work out the timing so that maybe they can pay for the pipe going across the bridge. So there is some technical arrangements we're trying to work out, but ADB has been told that it's our highest priority to finish that project and then move towards looking at finding funding to do the sewer plant in Irai.
Selong tila si Olmera Olbira lulaw kora masawda payment tagi di mo besringil kom take care ringi. The loan payment.
Oh, loan payment. Yes, the money from the 5 million policy-based loan money, some of that is for the AFPAC. So they will have additional cash that they can use. So part of their problem is a budget problem, part of it is a cash problem. They've said that they have enough cash, but maybe not for this expenditure. So we have told them we will work with them to try to get them some cash. But you know, we need to work on doing what we're doing now, not try to create new things at the same time. We need to put them in a better place, which is what the policy-based loan is all about, and that's why I mention it over and over. So I'm sorry if I'm not answering your question directly, but yeah, we are working with PUC directly to try to finish this project.
Minister, sula di soalnya ran mereka lulukoa Vice President Senate, selbabil nila si ora PUC amat keliling solicit for osiga ngesul gila loan payment. Emlornya teme del mga dadu ni dia kalgere ludo da loan ngitringi. Mang soal mo matingel wasetial tial ludo del mosao ring mosbel cover sim olbila dia kalondas ring. Clear link au ngita ngesul gila Asegi the loan payment, I think from April, March or April sometimes next year, 2023. So, mga dadu raklo ludo musadal di clear segi. At the same time, it evolved tackle more because SSL trends tool mosad ring SSL more improve our water system, PPC and plus other things. What I say?
Yes, you're correct. The loan money, the 5 million that we're talking about, I'm mentioning the policy-based loan. Is expected in August. So they will have additional 5 million in cash that they can use for cash flow purposes. But you know, those money are targeted towards specific projects like improving water system. So, let me work with PUC because we're talking about many different projects for them, for electricity, for water, for technical assistance. So I haven't discussed this with Frank, so I'm surprised that he's written to you.
Yam sila minister mla mo clear mo. Mo ni ateme mlo meeting ko masiyo. Hi ang kabay dim le directly mlo se me olbeil. Tiswa dal mom dangal se.
Minister lo hace di ba sa president, you're the right hand man na president sa tolawdo. Susceptible to. Agum da simla mo time mo meeting lo ngala president tem tagal board and commissions. Bornya Agora ungil lomrael el girel o intil auto el mohel paikal le a PPUC kanya board of directors ringi mengira board of directors lo meeting etc policy e order I CEO mulu so as according to the meeting ro ingrang ya board am decide magrang tiagit until board le gor president. It looks like CEO is just overstepping the board. Exactly what happened with GAPS. Exactly what happened with GAPS. Tapos natin lang okla. The CEO got all the stingy stuff out of these things. It kaya dal talew. Mang namogiray kal board and commission sa tergibel mo respect the president. Kasi kamamaulang yung artiang president, they were working for Palawan president. Mengani alam mertian mo dadu ora chairman ora at tokora dengi tokora finance tokora health ni sila kanya official request ebom through the process ka imagine assume ngaya on team hindi malu similar ways and means without writing to president of the senate or the speaker. That's a slap in the face. Mangakmak mo laway say meron ko elak mo ko ngito kumalam sulang my director mga South na 2 hours and 15 minutes tial hearing. A direksyon ra leadership ra House mas Senator ya Paules mas speaker ra kasi mo Audit tial urior. Tentatively al sugo man dia ka request ra kumamra Senate dia ka request ra siya committee ra health, chairman na committee ra CIP, chairman na committee ra education. Holda hearing lo bengela igel appropriate administrative tiagid ya molas tel hearing mama mo uro rapasi siringi ra house mas schedule mama elalwi ga mo uro ra committee report hopefully passing na mitra next week ra second meeting ya endra ura gibo mereka ra 5th ra August tegi lampas siringi mo ra house medgo global talboil ang nga differences ya dos per September. Agora iron out tagil mo differences circuit. Masaya ako na schedule labas ka mama leadership ra ngara Senate direkto na lang siya speaker. Agora si sulto ko opening statement niya malbatak kasi tagil lo udrurior to albang let natong tiale clay makton niya ano niya do belaw mo mala angari mo mala subsidy wala lakla budget tagi daw kalbang laigal maklo yol model. Hindi igir ya kurang asulian ka ma-director magsaw. Miskat te alam mo mo kurang asulam meron ko yak mo close.
Thank you, Chairman. It's always good for me, at least, to come before you, and especially all of you at one time, and be able to discuss these important issues. Thank you for keeping us to time. Even though we go a little bit late, that's good with us, as long as we are able to satisfy your questions as much as we can. So we're happy to come back and see you, especially after my trip to Washington next week, give you an update, and I'm sure there'll be further developments. I believe last we met, I mentioned that we will be having our first advisory group on economic reform meeting with the United States. It's been pushed to August 22 that week. So we're looking forward to bringing those very high-level economists to our country and show them exactly what we're talking about. And it's our hope that we also have them sit before you to be able to give a good picture to them of what we're talking about and what they're here and what they will see. So I look forward to that meeting with all of you. I'll let you know as it gets closer. We were fortunate in securing the graduate school to be the secretariat. They're very familiar with us, so any reports or questions or economic data that these economists need can be provided by them. So it should be a very productive first meeting, and this is after 12 years since the 2010 Compact Review. So it's very timely, and we look forward to having this meeting in Palau for the first time. Thank you.
And before I officially close, I'd like to ask Paules to say something.
Minister, kamal msulang kura diogereng kwa kadam saudara di government guktiak kura am sauda private wase how we can help private egidam dengel waseng kadangara economic recovery madangel wase igel small business at sila blur belau again never fail to pay tax ding kura diam address waseng ngara sebe edel lolong sel mortir meng ti mention ng ilegorgaw madsum sello na moranga niya sa PL guk set aside ak muntelal milyon bot sa PL ay small business el moringi access ringil mo loan el help ertir kadamaday wasing every quarter they never fail to pay tax while they're not earning a full capacity raigel operation ertir maktingul more attention raw ma pomodang lay mang alsum sel ay gaygid loan el dangay amo sabi el team set aside la 1 or 2 million mo help ay get small business hindi ka lola ring free tamo loan hindi bastra small interest bol sabi el helper tir lekadam dangil was recovery will not be this year dia ka dangil was mo sabi el next year dia mang just help them kadam la help probablement ra salary tir a private ta dir ka helper tir hindi kadam dangil was el basula probablement marolela asis belela udo den mumring rigida di usutrir other rogui di ngaring itrigel bebil lakdang sutrir en matar besul aktiol ngiter segidel te al minister tiregal kadakura di im southern executive branch ma state ngari rukplame eguk tiakadakura am southern olbira kalula wase agi diregal lowrior ma diregal bolsebele ngaring akura kuktelet ki olbira kalula agi medal ngar okdel ada lowrior direk lo spe anges mang andia gimo kol adi imo o loya tit ara alsel el gire la igal tablol blar olbil malegong en emongro ngosuil olbil digi gidaktung minister kamsul
silang namodiak delegate Trabilio, you happy? Okay. Kanya request ra chairman.
Sulang minister ako saula senator na kola meeting ri gid mo hukti take opportunity ask el waseng ngani sel section 13 the beverage container deposit ngani sel expansion la RPPL 10-31 masum sa within the Mr. al forward report ringi modone kwasing telak lunga la collection ma expenditure ringi modone wasing makaranga le ngaring sil 7-24 na create 10-31 expansion ringi di go Mr. FAA ngora dia sisiwa anamber mliwek mo ma bol sa eladi mo alter wasing marate tele se revolving fund mo si momone kwasen di okay sa gid section ng government ringi mo sulas minister
Okay, mendigayang mabalway se tial hearing ra Senate Bill 11-70 Lingia FY 2023 Unified Budget na dimertyang emna mo break. Mamsulang.